I am Luke Tucker. I'm the program manager at Accelerate UH and kind of entrepreneur in residence as well, working with our teams and startups. So what is Accelerate UH? We are a public-private partnership between the University of Hawaii and Sultan Ventures. And we are about empowering and investing in UH's entrepreneurs. That includes students, faculty, alumni. Even if you have a UH IP that you want to try and turn into a startup, that's something that we can invest in. And we have a 16-week program that goes through how to do a lean startup, how you can build your product, and how you can market yourself and build your financial model and get you investor ready. That's the goal of the program. The way in which we actually kind of take the framework of the lean startup, lean methodology, and apply it into a mechanism, the initial takeaways aren't just related to your market or your competition, actually. So there's a lot of mechanisms that are out there. Competition matrices are actually really valuable for a slide deck when you're doing a pitch to investors. But if you look at what we call the business model canvas and how we utilize that, there's not a section where you actually input, here's our competitive landscape and here's the market research. It's actually implied data when you actually present the learnings. And we can talk a little bit about customer discovery, how we approach that. But a business model and representation in a very concise aspect. I know there were some investors I've seen before, they call it the business plan toss, where they would actually get in business plans, and if they could toss it down the hall to their secretary, then it would actually pass that and they would read it. But most investors are not interested in reading volumes of data. They just want to know that you've done your homework.
Are you able to share stories on major surprises that came from cohort companies when using the business model?
Sure. So a lot of the times, what some of the biggest learnings we've had as they are putting their business model to the test, that's what we preach a lot. So we have a structure that we call, have your hypothesis, and then you're going to do some experiments. And then from the results of that, you're going to take a certain set of actions. So this is kind of the lean framework, and we call it the scientific method as it applies to startups. So similar to, we're talking to academic professors and researchers, they're familiar with Bunsen burners and beakers in the lab. But what we are trying to coach and educate them that, markets and your ideas and business hypotheses are subject to testing as well. So have that hypothesis written down, make sure you're addressing a real problem in the market, and you determine that through customer discovery and both primary and secondary research. What I mean by that is you're going to talk to customers, that's primary research, that's one-on-one, actually seeing what their pain points are. And the secondary research is doing the Googling, finding the research reports, actually framing a market landscape and size. Gartner says that over the next 4 years, this market's going to increase X%. These are all things that go into the business model. Like we talk about software as a service as a business model. You talk about straight retail distribution and that you're just going to sell at a certain margin above a set price of what it costs you. These are all ways that we would call channel distribution of what your product is, and that's probably the closely related to what we would kind of identify as your revenue or your business model. Again, different terminologies that people use in different ways, but that's kind of how we approach it. So other ways like that entrepreneurs can kind of research and get a feel for the market, I would say, I mentioned a few minutes ago, one of the best ways is to do that primary research, is to do that customer discovery, and I would call it nose counting. So you want to find the 100 people within a certain mile radius of where you're at that would actually buy your product or that actually use it, that are interested in it. And then the top down is just doing making sure this is a big enough opportunity, especially as far as investors are concerned. They're interested in they're taking a big risk on a company. They want to get a big return on their investment. And we're talking not 10x, not 50x, up to even 100x. Again, different investors have different risk palettes, but that top-down research is going to help just frame the market opportunity. You have a certain gut feeling, a certain intuition. You're going to need to actually validate that by showing that you've done your research. Because if I sit there and I can do more research and find more about your company than you know about in terms of competition, opportunities, or whatever in 5 minutes, then that's an immediate turnoff in terms of that conversation actually, having a respect for what the entrepreneurs put together. Some other ideas I would have, if you don't have an idea at all, but you're trying to find a good one, go to Google Trends, go to Google Insights, use like the Google AdWords tool to see what people are searching for. Where are their trends? Use a product like BuzzSumo. Use Amazon's recently sold list. Use eBay's what the lists of products that are available, and just start observing where these like marketplaces are. Go to Craigslist. What are the recent gigs on Craigslist? If you see the certain ones that keep popping up, maybe there's a way that you can do something that doesn't scale initially and provide a really core level of service. Then you can productize it. Then you can put technology around it, how you can figure out how to scale and enable a really sustainable, healthy business, because you're identifying major pain points. So I would say strengths and weaknesses of a business plan versus a business model. So I think part of the first way I'd approach that is just to kind of set some terminology, right? So a business plan is a representation of a business model. Like we have a document we call a business model canvas, and it's essentially a business plan on a page. That's the way it's kind of, we define it at least. It's 9 tiles on a Kanban style board that says, here's your value proposition. You got them right behind me, right? This is your customer segments. Here's your revenues and costs, the different channels, how you're going to get customers, keep them, grow them. How you have key partners, what are your key activities and key resources that are involved in making this business a success, and just looking at that as like a high level outline. And then your business plan is what goes into all the details. You're not going to have a financial model on a one page. You can't have all the assumptions or everything that goes into that. You're not going to have a detailed market research report. You're going to need that though. You're not going to have your competitive matrix. You're going to need to know who your competitors are. So all of that kind of funnels into what I would say is a construct of a business plan. You need to have it articulated, at least, maybe not in the same terminology or verbiage that if you're going to go online and search business plans, you're going to find a whole bunch of stuff. And there might be great templates, there might be tons of info out there. But for maybe startups, it's going to be skewed to saying, we don't want you to spend hundreds of hours just putting together a document. We would rather have you execute early and test your hypotheses often, as long as they're based on valid assumptions and that you're actually testing in the marketplace. That means much more value. And then the business model canvas, as one example, is a way that you can just document your learning there. So it's keeping you accountable. It's a framework that it's iterative. It changes. It's not static. So if you write a business plan and throw it on the shelf, what good is that? It's except for you going through the exercise of thinking through your business from beginning to end. And that's where it's really valuable, to where the business model canvas won't be that. So would I say do one or the other? Like the answer is no, you got to do both. But where it would be I would have a bias towards not doing a big research report. Then it's not like a classroom report that you're handing in for your MBA or your thesis or whatever. Like we tell entrepreneurs, this is real life. Are you really serious about putting your own capital, putting your own time, which is your most valuable asset, into this company or this business? Then you want to make sure that you do what you can, do it as smart as possible and as quickly as possible. So yeah, some of the things that we look for at Accelerate UH when we're analyzing and reviewing applications, early stage ideas or companies, it's all about the team. I mean, you talk about product, market, team, financials. Like the team is really going to be driving it forward. So we're making an investment in the entrepreneurs. We want to see if they have the technical skill sets to accomplish what they're showcasing. We want to see if they have the relevant knowledge. Do they have actual experience in the market that they're going after? What experiences that they've had, maybe not necessarily in that specific industry. It's not like if you don't have relevant industry experience, you're not going to get into Accelerate UH. That's not what I'm saying. But that will actually help your case quite a bit when you can say, yes, I know that I can empathize, I know this problem inside and out, I have this experience, or you're able to prove that you've applied in a certain framework to do the research, or that you're going to work hard. We look for hustle metrics, not necessarily that you're going to need to come in with a full robust plan. It's going to be, here's my idea, here's my initial set of hypotheses, this is what I've done to test it, here's some initial traction I have. Traction for any investor, I think at any stage is really going to be, especially at the early days, is going to be a huge boon for your story, because we're going to come with a little bit of a bias lens to say, okay, great idea, we like to just test it and prove it out. And that's part of what we offer in terms of Accelerate UH as a framework, and really driving people from an accountability standpoint, as well as giving you tips, tricks, actual actionable things that you need to do to move your business from an idea to an actual product, right? So we call them call it a project initially. If you're that early, it's just an idea. You're rumbling things around. You need a co-founder. So single founders probably not not the best. If you go actually on our application page on our site, then you'll see on the left-hand side, it's like here's kind of the basic stuff that we're going to need that I'm kind of articulating here. So not too many surprises there. There's a short application. We encourage everybody to kind of apply, even if you don't know. If you have an idea or you want to it'll force you to think about outlining your problem or the solution that you have in really concise ways. So I think that's a good exercise regardless. And it helps us just to see who's interested in what's out there. So I guess some of the quick tips or takeaways that I would like to leave entrepreneurs that are looking to pursue an idea, maybe they already have something started or they're looking to innovate in their current process. One of the most valuable things, and we find that from we're in our 4th cohort now at Accelerate UH, from other companies that I've worked with and myself going through it, you can't underestimate the value of talking to your customers or talking to who your potential customers are. That's so valuable for you as the entrepreneur because you don't even know exactly what maybe problems that you're solving that are kind of maybe tangentially related, but might be a bigger market opportunity. You're not even going to know until you actually go talk to them. If you're building something that you want, well, great. Maybe you need to go out there and see if other people want that as well. Building a product or scratching your own itch is a great way to actually start. But where I think entrepreneurs miss it when they're in that specific case, this is my idea. I know tons of people are going to want this, but they just base it on their intuition and they don't actually go out and do any kind of sample size of the market. There's this great story of Peter Rowan, who's our angel in residence here, and he was a head of new ventures at Coinstar, and they invested in the Redbox platform. All the Redbox DVDs that you see in Safeway and everywhere, it's huge, right? They're all over the place. Well, that wasn't the case, 10 years ago or so. And Peter's the big reason why. And he talks about the founder of that company, Redbox, because he took it over after they had the initial traction. He did hundreds of interviews, thousands plus, outside of grocery stores and in parking lots to just determine if people would actually be interested in, first it was the coin machines. Do you have spare change at home? What do you do with it? Do you take it? Just to get enough of a sample size, say, yep. And he de-risks the business. So when you're going and pitching investors, well, who have you talked about this idea? Do you have anybody using it? The basic thing that you can do, even before you do the interviews in parallel with this. So this is what I'll leave it with. Put up a landing page. Really simple. There's 5 things that you need on a landing page, and you can Google it. Lean Canvas, Ash Moria has great info on that. Put up a landing page, pay $100, not even that, $50 to $100 in Facebook ads to drive traffic based on who your customer segment would be. Set up a problem, a solution, and put a button, say sign up here or sign up for information. And then when they do that, you'll have an email list. You'll have information about people that are interested in that specific need, and you set pass-fail metrics. If it's here, if only 50 people out of 1,000 said, yeah, or whatever, maybe we can test it further. So it's really simple ways with technology today. You don't even need a code to do that. You have tools that are available for you to put something up and test an idea and hypothesis while you're also going out and all the other things I talked about before, like look at the Reddit subthreads in your specific niche. Look at the BuzzSumo articles that are being shared. Look at Amazon things that are being sold very recently, the recently sold top sellers. These are really good directional indicators to decide and validate whether you should spend your hard-earned money or your time taking away from the opportunity cost of whatever else you could be doing to pursue this as a business.